Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Unluckmonkey's Legacy Challenge winning blue-black mid-rangey sort of deck. So this is quite an interesting list that departs from what quite a few people are playing at the moment in terms of like your scam variants and rescaminator. So we're going for a higher interaction suite here. So we've got a lot of interaction in the form of Sheoldred's Edict, good old-fashioned Hymn to Tourach as a 4 of, you'd absolutely love to see it, and 3 Fatal Pushes. We've got our 7 counter spells, we've got a bunch of cantrips, and then we've got our threats. So, Orcish Bowmasters, not much needs to be said about this one. An absolute standout card in the format right now, but this deck is only running 3 of them, which is kind of interesting. Then we have 3 Psychic Frog, which is the new hotness, very strong. It gives us the ability to play this sort of mid-rangey control game with lots of interaction because we're going to be drawing extra cards, and then once we use our interaction, it then feeds into our frog having evasion. That's pretty strong too. Then we have another new card in Nethergoyf. This is a 1-mana Sword of Tarmogoyf, but it only checks your graveyard. It does have escape as well, but it's only 1 mana, so this is probably going to be beating for like 2 or 3, but then there's a little bit of tension with the Psychic Frog, but we'll see how that pans out. And then the other card we have here is Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. So this is a 1-mana naught through your flying. When it attacks, you get a clue. When you draw your 3rd card at a turn, you flip it, and it becomes a Planeswalker where you can +2 to -1 attacking creatures till next turn, -3 to get an instant or sorcery back from your graveyard, and then you can -7 to draw cards equal to half the number of cards in your library, and then you get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. Which is the thing that I've seen go off a lot more than I thought it would. So that's certainly an interesting card. I wasn't very hot on this, but I've played against it a few times, and it seems better than I gave it credit for. We'll see how good it is playing with it today. We've got 4 Wastelands packed in our deck. We've got 1 Undercity Sewers, a bunch of Underground Seas, and a single Swamp as our basic. Because we are trying to cast Hymn to Tourach, so having an island in our deck becomes a little bit annoying. Sideboard-wise, we got some Graveyard Hate, we've got some stuff to Blood Moons and all that sort of jazz. We've got a couple of pieces of disruption for early combo decks, just little cheeky spell pairs. This is also quite useful now because people are running Vexing Bauble as a defensive measure as well as an offensive measure. So they can use this to... They can use a Vexing Bauble to protect against counter spells like Force of Will and Daze. So having counter spells that just cost 1 is actually really important, I think. Speaking of counter spells, we've got some more in Force of Negation, a little bit more removal, good old Baleful Strix if we need this to go up the board and just get a little bit more dig going on. Some more removal in Snuff Out, and then a generic answer in Brazen Borrower. So quite a lot of different tools we're going to sort of be slotting in. This kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Team America decks that used to basically be a blue-black control deck that splashed for Tarmogoyf, but now we just have Nethergoyf kind of filling that niche. So that's really what this deck reminds me. Okay, remember to like and subscribe, and let's see how Unluckmonkey's deck fares in a league today. Our opening hand is a very aggressive one, but without any real disruption outside of this Bowmasters. But our hand, you know, plays okay. We can pitch an excess land to the Psychic Frog if we need to. I'm going to give it a try. I don't think we're supposed to be mulliganing to like disruption or whatever when we have... Okay, Orcish Bowmasters is going to be relatively disruptive against the blue deck, but we can just start bringing the beats. Let's see what our opponent's working with. This will improve the power of our Nethergoyf. Okay, so there is a Savannah on top over there. So we're probably looking at some sort of Beanstalk Yorion style deck. Could still be Bant. I don't mind getting Wastelanded. In fact, if our opponent takes time off to do that, it's not the worst in the world. But I think we probably just want to get a Polluted Delta going. So this will be a 2-3 now. And we can follow up with a Frog or a Bowmaster. Another land, that's probably just going to get thrown into the Frog later. We can see the... Oh, Zenith. Okay, so we're a Yorion Zenith deck. It's a bit of a blast from the past. Haven't seen these around for a while. But I suppose Nadu is kind of a big deal. Would I like to Wasteland my opponent? I don't think so. I think I would rather cast this Psychic Frog. And if they counterspell this, it will grow the size of our Nethergoyf. So we want to play this pre-combat like this. Or are we just in with the frog? Pretty solid. I don't think I'm going to sacrifice one of our creatures just to pump the Nethergoyf for once. We might as well just play these out. So we can make this one bigger and we can give this one power by sacking the Nethergoyf. And we can bring it back. Obviously bringing it back is pretty awkward for the purposes of keeping the Nethergoyf's power and toughness high. 4 mana. Green Sun Zenith for 3. Is this going to be a Nadu? An Endurance. Okay, that's not so bad. The Endurance does have reach. Am I Wastelanding this turn or not? I don't think I am, but would I like to have the Wasteland so we can at least try and double Wasteland our opponent next turn? think so. This allows us to have another Nethergoyf. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to sack 3 creatures to make this trade into this. And what would that do? So we have to sacrifice 3 cards. So we got 2 cards that we're happy to get rid of. And we can probably get rid of another Nethergoyf. And that will make this 1, 2, 3. So that will live as well. So I think we're just going to attack with both. And go deep into the frog. Alright, it's our opponent's turn now. We're just pushing damage, just aggroing our way out. We've got Bowmasters and Wasteland to follow up with next turn, as well as just having a 2-turn clock in play. What are we going to see from our opponent here? Second main phase, put Euro into hand. That kind of suggests they need a blue card or they want a blocker. This Daze is actively great for us. Have a smash. Am I worried about a Supreme Verdict? Am I worried about a Supreme Verdict? It'd be kind of annoying. We could take out a white source. That is the removal card that our opponent's after. But we can always just play the Bowmasters post Wrath if we need to. So I imagine we're going to see Meticulous Archive off of this. Okay, Lush Portico. I was close. But they were going to get Surveil Land there because they clearly need something to get out of this hole. We put them in by just playing creatures. We haven't done anything big or clever. We're just making some guys. Oh, this is very tempting, isn't it? They can't cast a Wrath this turn because of the mana they have available. Alright, is Brainstorm going to go off? So we put our opponent under a bunch of pressure, so they needed to do some brainstorming, and then we just catch them with the Orc. Alright, we just played some guys, right? That was just good old-fashioned aggro. Yorion Zenith is kind of an odd one. What is the correct way to approach this? I don't mind having a Baleful Strix here. A nice little bit of card advantage. I don't really like the Dazes on the play. Oh, sorry, on the draw. So if we strip those out, and we're looking at some like fair answers like Spell Pierce. Seems pretty reasonable. We just want to be able to make sure we can push through our Hymn to Tourach. My Brazen Borrower is another threat. I don't hate having threats against a deck that's going to be taking controlling posture against us. Do I like that more than Spell Pierce? Probably. We're going to need Fatal Pushes for like Nardu and Uros down the track. Do you want a Nihil Spellbomb over Bauble? I think that's reasonable. We want 2 of them over Baubles. Pretty reasonable, given our opponent is going to have Uros in their deck somewhere. Well, just playing a bunch of creatures and turning them sideways was pretty good last time, so let's see if it is this time. A Lush Portico. So which creature is the prize here? Or are we just going to reset the game with a Wasteland? I'm interested in Wastelanding here. Our opponent didn't do anything with their first turn. They got Surveil out of the way and their tap land out of the way. Just resetting the game could be useful here. We've got plenty of land to work on. Basic Island. So now we've hit one of our opponent's dual lands and they've had to fetch a basic because they're worried about Wasteland. So that Wasteland is going to impact what spells they can cast moving forwards because they're now playing scared of more Wastelands. So is the play here to get a Nethergoyf or get this Tamiyo cooking? I think we're going to try the Tamiyo out. We can get some card advantage off this, that'd be nice. We're going to see a Tundra here to plow our creature. No. Okay, it's going to be a Beanstalk. No, a Carpet. Carpet's good. Yeah, so soft permission is going to look pretty awkward in this match. Alright, a green sun's there for 1. This is going to be a Mana Dork, which we're then going to kill because if our opponent's getting Mana Dorks with their Zenith, when they already have a Carpet of Flowers out, that speaks volumes. Okay, we just attack with the Tamiyo. Get ourselves a clue. And I think we are looking at Fail Push first. Then we'll get a basic Swamp so our opponent doesn't get more mana off of their Carpet. And we'll use this to cast a Nethergoyf. Next turn, if we want to, we can flip the Tamiyo if we think that's going to be a useful thing to do. Black mana from the Carpet. Alright, it didn't really care what the colour was, it was just going into the Lorien Revealed, making us think about that they might have some black spells. Right, they got Underground Sea, they do have black spells. Okay. Just like Toxic Deluge or something? It is a Toxic Deluge. Goodbye, our creatures. But we've got a pretty good follow-up in the old frog. So we have a choice here. Are we pondering now, we're giving our opponent 1 additional mana? Or are we holding back? I think I'm into getting a ponder off here. Hymn to Tourach, another ponder, Nihil Spellbomb. I quite like a lot of what's going on here. I think we'll put the ponder on the bottom. Right. So now we've got this hymn we can fire off. If our opponent is just trying to tread water, disrupting their hand can be huge here. If I have to bin off this Baleful Strix to save our Psychic Frog, that's something I'm willing to do. I'm probably willing to pitch most of our cards here. Alright, a Green Sun's Earth where X equals 3. This could be a Nadu. Or something. No, just an Endurance. Okay. That's fine by me. To soften our opponent's hand a bit more. What do we get? A Recruiter of the Guard. Intriguing. Do I want to get this Spellbomb down? I think so. So we don't have to worry about Uros or any weird graveyard shenanigans. We've got 2 draws on board. And we've got another draw in hand as well as this Brainstorm to cantrip. 2 green mana. X equals 2. Is this going to be Collector Reef to shut down our Spellbomb and Clue? They probably would have boarded it out if they had it. Alright, an Ice Fang. Sure, they got an Ice Fang, we got a Baleful Strix. It's good old-fashioned magic right there. So now they have a Death Touch Ice Fang and they put a Yorion to hand, which can then draw them some more cards. Pretty solid turn from our opponent there. So I think we're drawing a Ponder this turn, if I remember rightly. Yes. So we've got a lot of options available to us. I think Brainstorm is probably where we start and see what shakes loose. Yes, I would like him to Tourach my opponent. Lose your last 2 cards there. We got a Yorion and a Delighted Halfling. Can't attack yet, but we're doing alright. So now we kind of have eroded this mana advantage our opponent was accruing because they don't have any cards. Which is kind of what you need to do when a Carpet of Flowers enters the game. You need to assess how you're actually going to play around that. Let's crack this. Do I want more mana this turn? I think I probably do, so I'm not going to get the Sewers here. So we're shuffling the land off the top before we cast our Baleful Strix. Kind of in a holding pattern here, but I think that's reasonable for now. We've cast 2 Hymns of Tourachs, which is normally a good way to play the game. So we can crack this Clue in our opponent's turn, get a little bit deeper into our deck. We want to have more cards available so that we can do some Frog stuff. That present Frog is checked pretty hard by this Endurance and this Ice Fang. But we can start poking away with our Baleful Strix. Right, let's draw a card. A Brainstorm, not a bad card. We don't have anything like a Murktide Regent to really pop off and make something giant here. But, okay, Orcish Bowmasters, very good here. The Hymns of Tourach is no good at this point. And I guess we just put the Brainstorm on top. Then we can start attacking with our little Baleful Strix. I'm going to keep this land in hand so that we can pitch it to the Frog soon. So we've got Sorcery, Instant, Land. So this is a 3/4, so it can attack into the Endurance. So I think I will play this. Presumably our opponent's getting a Scryland. There it is, a Hedge Maze. Yeah, we've got our opponent in a pretty awkward spot here. I don't think they're going to be running many Wraths outside of this Toxic Deluge. Okay. So we probably want to do some Brainstorming before we attack. We don't really want these cards. If we keep the Artifact, that's a different thing we can pitch to our Frog. I think I will set off the Ponder here. Any order shuffle. Tamiyo is pretty reasonable. Right, let's go to attacks. So we can pump our Frog by 2, so it will live. And this also makes our Nethergoyf connect for more damage. A Plow targeting our Nethergoyf. I don't think I want to pitch this Tamiyo. It can just represent so many cards on our opponent's Hellbent. So let's get this on the go. We force for a little bit of damage. Opponent needs some sort of big card advantage engine. But they have to be careful because of our Bowmasters. So like the One Ring isn't great for that. Which is something they probably have in their deck if they've got Delighted Halfling. Okay, we can start attacking with some more guys now. So we can crack this and have another card to pitch. Let's get rid of this. So we can hold up this Fatal Push and this Nihil Spellbomb cantripping. We are just cruising here. Yep, our opponent agrees. They do nothing. We can kill them next turn. Probably like, what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we have lethal. Okay, that was pretty successful. Let's go to round 2. We make a guy, then we ponder our way to victory. That's probably reasonable. This does incentivize us to play out the Catacombs first, so our Nethergoyf is larger, just in case of things like Gut Shot out of some decks, like the ones with the bird Slick Shot Show, I think it's called. They run Gut Shot, as well as someone ramping out an early Bowmasters to kill our Nethergoyf. This way just avoids that problem. It doesn't mean we don't have a fetch land for later, but our cantrips are Ponders rather than Brainstorms, so it's not quite as big a deal to keep the fetch land. Just going to see a Plow straight away, or what? Esper Sentinel. Wowzers, trousers. Haven't seen one of those for a hot minute. This would be a great turn to draw Orcish Bowmasters. No. I think I would rather cast a Ponder than Fatal Push this creature. I will pay here. Well, well, well. I'll put them back like this. So now we've got 2-3. We can crash in for a decent chunk of damage. Next turn we can just pop this thing with the Bowmasters and hold up a Fatal Push or do some pondering. So we've got a very good turn lined up for us next turn. The Fatal Push will be an instant and pump our Nethergoyf. Okay, I see where we're at here. If we see another creature, we can let them draw the card just to get us the Bowmaster ping. A Plow. So we can go Bowmasters here. Ping this down. Cast a Ponder. Use the ping. Our opponent gets a card here. But we get to take out their Sentinel. It's kind of a wash there. I like these cards quite a bit. So we've got removal for something little, removal for something a bit bigger. And we've got the Frog to try and start getting some card advantage. Alright, a Wasteland is something we're looking for now. A Noble Hierarch. Be my guest. Here comes the Bowmasters. There goes the Hierarch. And we're going to try and look for a Wasteland here. Any order in shuffle, I think. A Bauble. What does that do for us right now? Gives us another draw into interaction. Okay, Verdant Catacombs, we don't have to worry about that one. But now we get to bash for 4. Puts our opponent on a pretty slim clock. A Force of Will. That's not unhelpful. We'd love to find a Wasteland on our next draw, though, just so we don't have to worry about whatever this is going to pull out of their deck. Ramunap Excavator. They've already played a land this turn. We do need to get our Revolt triggered if we want to kill this. Undercity Sewers doesn't do it here. Okay, we're going to attack with everything. See if we can get our Revolt triggered. This is going to be a Dryad Arbor. It is. We are trading both of our Bowmasters here, which is not what I wanted. Do I want to hold up this Force of Will, or do I want to just get the Frog in? I think we want the Frog in. I kind of want to play the Surveil land, but I think having the extra power on our Frog is going to be more important. This also allows us to represent Force of Will blue card. If we play the Undercity Sewers, we can hard cast the Force of Will next turn. But we have a 2-2 that we're probably going to want to beat through. I don't know. Should we play the... No. I don't... Okay. So they've got a Nihil Spellbomb. Meekstone. Creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap step. Understood. Right, they're going to get to draw in a card here. Haven't seen Meekstone in a hot minute. This looks like some sort of like Abzan Maverick style list. So we can grow this by 1. Okay, so we play the Bloodstained Mire so we can hard cast this. I guess we attack. I'll discard this Undercity Sewers. Got 2 damage and a cantrip in. Orcish Bowmasters is pretty tasty. We've got hard cast Force of Will for anything I'm actually worried about. But just an additional body is fine here. Another land from our opponent. They're going to 5, which means we will have lethal with the Frog if we want it. Something big. A Green Sun Zenith. No, thank you. This is our last fetchable. Let's say no to that one. So we don't have lethal now. We can only deal 4 damage. Actually, this is 3 damage. 1 from the ping. That's still not enough, is it? So we're not gonna pitch to this because we want it to untap. A Hymn to Tourach when our opponent only has 2 cards in hand. Well, well, well. Don't mind me. A Cradle and a Wasteland. It's going to take a lot for our opponent to dig their way out of this one. And they don't have it. Okay, so some sort of Abzan Maverick-y styled list, which means they're probably going to want some extra removal. The Baleful Strix is going to be reasonable here as well. The Dazes are going to be awkward on the draw, especially when they've got a bunch of mana dorks in their decks. I'm not into that. I think just removing creatures is the better place to be here. We've seen Ramunap Excavator. Do we want to play a Nihil Spellbomb? I think we can have 1 over a Bauble. And then, what is the next plan here? I like the Hymn to Tourach still. Our opponent's not going to be playing all out their entire hand super early. So this is going to be able to get some purchase. Maybe we'll trim a Ponder. That's going to leave us... That's probably fine blue count wise. I think we just want to maximise removal as much as we can. The other option here is to get rid of a Bauble. That's probably better than getting rid of a Ponder, isn't it? It's nice to have the extra cards of Delirium. But Ponder is just a better magic card most of the time. Alright, we've got a bunch of removal. Do we want a borrower? I don't think so. Alright, our opening hand's got a card advantage engine, a 2-for-1, and then our premier threat. This seems fine, but we are a little bit shy of removal. But I believe in the power of drawing lots of cards. A Noble Hierarch, sure. Let's jam this Tamiyo. Try and draw some additional cards with it. Joel Rail. Whenever you cast your second card each turn, create a 2/2 cat. And then you can turn them into things equal to the number of cards in your hand. Wait, what? Oh, sorry, whenever you draw your second card. That makes a lot more sense than cast. So I would like to him to Tourach my opponent when they only have 3 cards in hand. That seems like a good place to be. Endurance and a Dryad Arbor. Let's get ourselves a clue token for the future. Next turn we can Wasteland and play a frog. Maybe just pitch 2 excess lands to the frog and have the biggest thing on board. Although the Meatstone kind of means we only want to pitch 1 card to it. Alright, so drawing an extra card, which will give them a cat here. Esper Sentinel, sure. We're getting attacked for 2 here. We are indeed. Fine by me. So this Wasteland looks great. So let's just fire that straight off. No spells for you, opponent. Let's get another clue. Play frog. It should be noted that I am recording this league the day before the ban announcements come out. So if our deck is no longer... I would like this to be a 2-3. So I'm going to say if our deck is no longer legal due to some bans that happened on Monday, I can't see the future. But we're not playing Grief, so I don't think anything in here is going to be banned necessarily. Even though this frog is pretty egregious as a magic card. So they're going to name Psychic Frog, I think. There it is. So they can attack with a 3/3 cat if they want. Due to the Noble Hierarch. Alright, so it's over to us. What are we doing here? I like playing out this Baleful Strix quite a bit. That can roadblock our opponent quite nicely. We can play Verdant Catacombs, get a Surveil land. We can attack, they can double block, but it won't kill our creature. Oh, supposed to tap the Tamiyo as well there. Alright, we're just getting a free card again. And now we have a Tamiyo that has flipped. Alright, our opponent's found another land. If they find a Cradle at some point, they get to have quite a bit of mana to work with. Green Sun Zenith X equals 1. Okay. Is this going to be another mana dork? It is. So we can trade our Death Toucher into this cat. And we get our Surveil land. What have you got for me, deck? Fatal Push. Yes, please. Just plus this. We can just take out both of their mana dorks. Or can we? So we'll pay for this trigger and see what they lose. Because we can play this without having attack, because it only attacks as the first card. Let's attack. Do I want to ponder? Do I want to kill one of their guys here? I don't think we need to do anything here. We just let it ride. We don't have another Surveil land, unfortunately. This triggers Revolt if we want it. Attacking the Tamiyo. Sure, Tamiyo can take 2. This is quite a big distraction going on. Opponent can make an Endurance here, but we can kill it. I'll just take another card. A Nethergoyf, sure. That's a pretty reasonable sized body here. Doesn't untap, but stops us getting killed by that. I think we just start cracking some clues now. Sure, that card is not particularly worrisome for me. Nihil Spellbomb could be useful. Alright, our opponents just had enough. I don't blame them. We've got a full grip of cards in hand and the superior board. Like, we are just massively outclassed what our opponent's doing right there. Alright, 2-0. Let's go to round 3. This hand is requiring us to draw another land, but we've got 2 draws, 2 natural draws, and 1 Mishra's Bauble draw. So I think this is acceptable to keep. We need to decide if we're leading off on Nethergoyf or Tamiyo. Depending on what our opponent plays, we'll hopefully decide for us. Alright, Mother of Runes. That's going to be really irritating for us to deal with. Also, Wasteland very much on the card. So our opponent is a Yorion Taxes list. Okay. I think I just want to get a Tamiyo down right now. We'll fire this off in case our opponent is splashing for Bowmasters. Failure. The little puppy. Right. We've got a Bowmaster of our own. If we can find a mana source, that would be handy. That is not a Wasteland. I'm very happy to see that. Wasteland of our own. Right, so we can just attack with a Tamiyo, get a clue, hold up Bowmasters, or drawing a card off the clue. Drawing a card off the clue is probably what we're going to do because I'd like to find some more mana. But if we get an opportunity to do something good, then I'll take it. Don't really want to play against this card. Cast a Daze. This also preserves our coloured mana source. We've still got this Force of Will with a spare Tamiyo to pitch. Ooh, another land that's going to shock them for 3. Flicker Wisp. See, Bowmasters is a nice clean answer to that, but they have a Mother of Runes. I think I'm just going to say no to this and just get it gone. I just don't need to be dealing with that. Him to Tourach, that could certainly come in handy shortly. I think I'm going to play this Nethergoyf. If we start attacking and the Mother of Runes taps, then we might be able to ping off with the Bowmasters. There is an argument to Wasteland our opponent here and keep them off of some higher mana plays. The problem with that is our opponent is a Wasteland deck, and we might need this mana to cast our Bowmasters next turn. So I don't really want to fall into that trap. There's certainly times where Wastelanding into the Death and Taxes player is what you want to do. I'm not sure this is one of those times. Flagstones, yeah. They've got no problem with mana over there. Whereas we can get caught under a Thalia or something, and then all of a sudden everything becomes a lot less efficient. A Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, I will be him to Touraching our opponent to get this Cauldron out of their hand. Seems good to me. We've got like a 66% chance to hit it. Let's also put a sorcery in our graveyard and make our Nethergoyf bigger. And we'll put a land in as well. Okay, they're rating this fairly higher than having the Cauldron in hand. That is intriguing. This is always attacking. Are we attacking with our Nethergoyf? I don't think so. Should work out. This is more likely to make them tap the Mother of Runes. They've got no cards in hand either. So it's just going to be whatever they get off of this Stoneforge. Again, I don't think we're wastelanding here either. This allows us to play Bowmasters and another spell next turn. Possibly the Sheoldred's Edict if we can draw another land. So this Felia wants to blink the Stoneforge. Oh, they drew a Plough. That was a very good draw for our opponent there. So the plan was that they would have to either let their Felia die or just force through a little bit of damage. But now they kind of get to do everything because they drew pretty much the best thing they could draw there. Which is unfortunate for us. But that is Magic the Gathering sometimes. Alright, have they got a Batterskull? Put Ura into hand. And then the Stoneforge comes back. It grows the dog. What does it find? A Lion Sash. Okay. A Daze can hit this Yorion, so that's not the worst for us. The Lion Sash is annoying. I think we're going to crack one of these clues and see if we find a land. Psychic Frog, not a bad card. I think we're just going to deploy this Nethergoyf. So the other option we had that turn was to just Sheoldred's Edict. Alright, so there is... he's going to put in the Sash. And they can just start devouring our graveyard. So they can make our Nethergoyf for 2-3. Yeah, we're in the squeeze of Death and Taxes now. If we block, they shrink our guy. What fresh piece of equipment are they going to get off this Stoneforge? Batterskull time? It is a Batterskull. They're bouncing our Tamiyo. Yep. It's all going a bit ugly for us now. They can make them sack a creature. They probably just sacrifice a Stoneforge at this point because it's already done what it needs to do. What is our route out of this one? A big frog. Big frog doesn't hurt. Do I want to hold up this Sheoldred's Edict or Bowmasters? I think this turn I'm going to attack with the Nethergoyf. See what our opponent wants to do about it. So there's an argument to Wasteland, so our opponent can't. Yeah, if we attack with the Wasteland on their lands, then they're not going to be able to cast a Batterskull around Daze or a Yorion around Daze. Okay. They shrunk our poor little friend. They're just taking the 2 here. How am I supposed to Wasteland? I think we Wasteland the Caracas and play Tamiyo. That way we can actually utilise this Daze in our hand. Yeah, I know the guy's not going to be doing very much in the near future. Yep, so they can exile our frog and reset counters on it every turn. Yep, I think we're just going to take this damage. I assume they're going to pump here and get him for a lot more. It's tough. Another Sheoldred's Edict. I think step 1 is giving this wings. If they have a Batterskull they can jam in, which probably forces us to Edict away the Germ. If we're looking for a land, I think we Brainstorm here. Not feeling good about this one. Him to Tourach is pretty good here, but that will allow the Batskull to hit us for a turn, which is not ideal. Yikes, we're in a bit of a pickle. We can get our opponent Hellbent, but we're facing down a lot of power here. I don't think we can afford to do that. So we flip our Tamiyo, which does reduce the power our opponent has. So we can either him here, hold up the Edict, or hold up the Bowmasters. Here comes the Batskull. Not a fan of this for us, but it is what it is. An Elite Spellbinder, yuck. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Oh, it's supposed to be token creature, whoops. That was a bit of a spew there. I think we're just done here. How are we supposed to beat what our opponent's got here? This Mother of Runes was also really irritating, because it meant that we couldn't like Bowmasters down the sash when it was small, or try and catch the Failure out, or whatever. I took our Bowmasters because that represents 2 blockers. I think we can call that a day. Okay, so we're going to want some more removal spells. Give me that. I don't hate this. This is a removal spell on a stick. I don't particularly like Daze here. I think we still need to keep some forces in. The Borrowers look good when they've got all these germs ruining our day. Tamiyo looks less good into Caracas. So we'll trim 1 Tamiyo. And we can trim a couple of Baubles because they're not great into the Thalia anyway. And this seems reasonable enough. We also have to watch out for the White Orchid Phantom, which is like the Ghost Quarter creature. That's going to be attacking our mana base, so you don't want to fetch our single basic. So the first time they cast that, it isn't just straight up sinkhole on a creature. But if they've got a load of Wastelands, then what are we fetching? You know, it's going to be a pain. Okay, I'll keep this. We've got a removal spell. We've got some hand disruption. We've got another removal spell. I will just fire this straight off. A little bit of information. A Recruiter of the Guard over there. Understood. Could pull down on forces in this matchup as well. Some pretty scary haymakers that it's just nice to have. And because our deck is designed to draw a boatload of cards, it means that we are better off with our Force of Wills in, because we can actually use them and not just be behind with the card advantage. I don't want to fire for him just yet. I'd rather save a Bowmaster for an X1, like a Thalia or something. That lets us play on our turn better. No play from our opponents. This Bowmaster is a removal spell rather than a threat here. A force. So our opponent's going to cast a Failure here. So I'd like to hold open this Fatal Push. Another Fatal Push is the exact sort of card I'm after here. Right, so they'll flash in the creature at end step, and we'll just say no to it straight away before they get a chance to do any Caracas nonsense with it. So they're going to play the Recruiter this turn. The Flagstones. Not really what I want to Wasteland. An Elite Spellbinder. This is annoying. If we draw a land, we just get to ping it down with a Bowmaster if they take the Bowmasters. Alright, I think we just allow this one. Not a big fan of them seeing our hand. But we've got some pretty nice hits here. Any land gives us Bowmasters pinging down the Spellbinder. So they might take a Force just to shut us off of that. Alright, they took the him. It's left us with Bowmastering their Spellbinder. Don't mind if I do. I don't think we need to Brainstorm this turn. We can just hold open this Fatal Push. A Ghost Quarter. I don't like this one very much. I don't just want to have all of my lands go bye-bye. Right, let's start off with a Brainstorm. We'll put back a Ponder, and is it a Brainstorm or another Ponder? I think it's probably the Brainstorm here. So we can attack. If they flash in a dog, we can Fatal Push it. Right, we can hold up Surveil Land. Just got to get through this next turn, and then we can him our opponent. I've got the dog. No to the dog. Plains. There's that Recruiter. This is going to be a bit of a pain. They're going to get the guy that we... Yeah, they are. The guy that we counterspelled earlier. This guy being a first striker is also a bit of a problem. What would they like to blow up? Our Underground Sea. So I guess that's a free shuffle. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. We're definitely him to Touraching next turn. It's Undercity Sewers. Sure, that's the sort of thing that can put us back into the game here. Alright, so we got rid of Solitude and a Caracas. So they're going to put Yuri into hand this turn. Next turn they get to blink their Recruiter and their White Orchid, and that's going to be a problem for us. I'm curious if they just go really hard after our mana this turn with the Ghost Quarter as well. No, okay, just put your own hand. Well, I'm thankful that they didn't do that. Yeah, it's just flying and first strike, so it's an absolute beast in combat for 2 mana. Right, we're looking for a Force of Will here, so that we can deal with this Yorion. Close, but not quite what we're looking for. A Psychic Frog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have to hit their land to try and keep them off of their creature here. We don't want them to cast a Yorion. I think we lose if that Yorion hits play. Don't draw a land. Or a good spell. We're asking a lot there. No land. 3 damage, sure. Like, they win this race as well. And we're just trying to stop them from actually just ending us. A Bloodstained Mire. Does that do anything here? Cast a Tamiyo as well. If they got the little dog, then we're going to lose to it anyway. No little dog. Let's go get Underground Sea and play a Tamiyo. We can kill the White Orchid Phantom if they attack with it. Sure. Alright, this is probably game over. Yikes. We just needed one more turn. Well, and to try and dig into something a bit better. Our opponent feels like they are absolutely fine in this matchup. Right, so they get to tutor for anything they want, and they get to blow up one of our lands. Yuck. A Solitude. And now they know that that Ghost Quarter is also just going to be a strip mine. Chat with any of our things, we just lose here. I don't believe there's any way out of this one. That matchup felt horrible. Our opponent just has a much stronger sort of mid-rangey plan if we don't get in underneath him and sort of get our engines set up. But that's kind of what Death and Taxes is supposed to do. It's always traditionally very good against your sort of Delvery style decks. And we're not a Delver deck, but we have some similarities to them. Alright, maybe we're not supposed to counterspell that first White Orchid Phantom, but and hold it just for the Yorion. But then that just gets more and more awkward as time goes on. Like, then we're probably going to fire it off on the Recruiter anyway, which means we still end up getting hit by one of these anyway. Yeah, just a really tough one. Let's go to round 4. Yeah, I'm down to clown with this one. We've got 2 options. We can either go for the aggro of playing the Nethergoyf first, or the sort of curving out into the Tamiyo plan, with like just having lots of card advantage, just playing this, hitting our opponent with some stuff. I'm not sure which option looks the best. We have a second Tamiyo. Blue-black means either some sort of scammy stuff or some sort of combo-y stuff for the most part. So getting a clock in play would be nice, but getting more cards that can disrupt our opponent also seems nice. If our opponent wants to fight over a spell and they fight over this one, wow, my 1 mana Hymns to Tourach, that's pretty good. That's going to make our 2 mana Hymns to Tourach look even better. Force pitching Force, now they're pondering. There's a chance we get to absolutely clean out our opponent with this Hymn. Is our Hymn going to resolve through our opponent's Daze though? We could just play 2 1-drops and hold up this Daze. I think I'm going to play the 1-drops. I want our Hymns to Tourach to resolve, and I want our Daze to get some use here. If they tapped out that turn, then I would have Hymned with Daze back up there. And Dismember on our little friend. Is this worth dazing? It might be. If our opponent really wants this creature down, I think we're going to save it. And make it larger. They did have a Daze. So they're dazing the Tamiyo there. Okay. So we've got a threat rather than a card advantage engine. Psychic Frogs. Pretty A-tier threats. We can't hymn them now for any value. If we'd have hymned them last turn into the Daze, it wouldn't have worked. So we have a Bowmasters. That's a pretty strong Magic the Gathering card. Just start crunching. Then we hold up in the Bowmasters here. We can use this to get a lot more threat in play. We will let them cantrip once here. So wait for this trigger to go on the stack. We'll see about getting the Bowmasters in. We're not going to ping the Frog because they'll just discard cards to it. We're just going to race them from this point. They got Bowmasters of their own. Okay. So we can force these cards in their hand to go into the Frog rather than being useful Magic cards if we want. Or we can just try and slam our opponent with some big creatures and like... Ooh, that's cool. I think I'm going to... If they have a Bowmaster of their own, I'd like to see if it's going to happen or not. It didn't float. Splash for some. We should have pondered after they didn't do that. Actually, we missed 1 point of damage there. That could be really clutch. I think I'll Brainstorm. We can always ponder and shuffle away the cards if we don't like them. Spell Pierce? No, they're just floating. Alright, our plan worked more or less there. So, what would I like to do in this particular matchup? This seems very good against opposing frogs, so I would very much like to have that. Fatal Push also seems pretty good. Spell Pierce, not super in love with the Spell Pierce. Are we just getting rid of things like forces? We can at least trade a couple out. Do we want Spell Pierces? Do we want Nihil Spellbombs? Our opponent's deck looks very similar to what we're doing. Does that mean we're going to want the Snuff Outs for potential Tamiyos? Uncertain on that front. I think we'll go in like this and see how it feels, and then we can adjust. Maybe we'll trade one of these Dazes for a Spell Pierce. We'll trade 2 of them for a Spell Pierce. We still have that one cheeky Daze that can crop up. Speaking of cheeky Dazes. Alright, this hand seems fine. We've got a card advantage engine. We've got 2 for 1. We've got a 1 for 1 counter spell and a Brainstorm to dig us out of the hole. Our opponent is beginning the game with Scalding Tarn into Underground Sea, casting a Ponder. That's fine. Okay, so we can just go Tamiyo. They might try and Daze us. Could Wasteland our opponent if we want to just play that game, but I don't think I want to play that game. I think we can Daze to force this through if we need to. Alright, we didn't have to do that. Dazing at this stage also protects us from a Wasteland. There is a Scalding Tarn from our opponent. I would like to not see a frog here. Alright, so we have Grixis temporarily. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay, they've only got 2 types in their graveyard right now. 3 types in their graveyard. They left the card on top. There's certainly a risk attached to attacking with this Tamiyo. I'm going to do it though. Like any instance they have will probably be ones that kill the Tamiyo anyway. Unless it's explicitly Brainstorm. It is Brainstorm. We still get our clue here. Right, so we do have Murktides. And now they're showing us a channel as well. Our opponent's deck is a lot less like ours than I originally thought it was going to be. Yep, so this gets a clean trade. Let's just soften our opponent's hand. Best to get this done before a frog comes in. A Brainstorm and a Misty. Hopefully that means they can't just play a Murktide Regent around Daze because we took one of their lands. Right, there's a land there. Our opponent managed to obscure what they were doing quite well in game 1. So we've got a reasonable advantage over us here. This looks like a Murktide that we can't Daze. We can Sheoldred's Edict it, but we have to get rid of the Channeler first. We can play a Baleful Strix, which holds it off quite nicely, which is what I'm hoping to do here. It's only a 5/5. Alright, step 1, as often is the case, is going to be a Brainstorm. An Orcish Bowmasters. That can ping down this Channeler, which means that we can then draw a cantrip. Draw a Sheoldred's Edict using our cantrips. So we're probably going to put back a Wasteland here. In comes the Bowmasters. They've got this Misty Rainforest. Yep, so they're going to make their guy into a bigger one, so we don't get to do that, unfortunately. Yeah, our opponent's had us on toast there. Now we could hold it up for them not to, so that maybe they forget about it or whatever. But the problem is, because the putting it in the graveyard is a cost, there's no timings where we get to actually remove it. So we just had to try and hope that this Dragon's Rage Channeler... But we were hoping our opponent made a mistake, basically. That's what our plan was. Which is not a great plan, but it's the plan we found ourselves in. Psychic Frog can... So 1, 2, 3, 4. We can just play a frog, and it can beat the Murktide in combat. Pyroblast is pretty solid there. Our opponent is representing lethal damage, which means we have to Brainstorm into a land and a Fatal Push to at least survive. Right, we got the lands, we just need the Fatal Push now. That's just to survive a turn. What is this? We can't win there. Okay, so our opponent's deck is not what I thought. So we do want these Force of Wills in. Sorry, not these Force of Wills, these Snuff Outs. Daze is obviously better on the play than on the draw, so I mind having those back. I do like the Hymn to Tourach still. Not convinced by these Spell Pierces. Forces don't look great when our opponent's got Pyroblasts, but I think they're good enough. We also want Borrowers if our opponent's on Murktides. So maybe we just off of these Force of Wills altogether. Is that enough answers for the Murktide though? Maybe it's a little sketchy. Alright, we're going to go in with this. Pyroblast is quite a big one-up in this particular match. We have a threat and a removal spell. That's a good way to start the game. And this is also the first time I've got to play with Nethergoyf and Tamiyo. You can see a Lightning Bolt. We are going to see a Lightning Bolt. Sure. So Nethergoyf is probably not coming back. It's not really that sort of a card. It's just a 1-mana threat, really. Right, a Bauble. Cracking immediately. It's over to us. A Nethergoyf. I would very much like to cast a Brainstorm into Nethergoyf here. A lot of good cards. think we can put back a land. And I kind of want all of these cards. We have to crack this if we want to cast our Nethergoyf. Maybe it's the Tamiyo, because we've seen a lot of Pyroblast from our opponent. We've seen a Pyroblast. Our opponent's definitely going to have more than one. So our opponent's working with over there. Oh, Misty. Okay, let's try this large friend. This is pretty dazeable, unfortunately. Alright, we got a Force of Will out of it. That is A-okay with me. So I'll follow up. Ooh, Psychic Frog. That's a very good follow-up. We also have the Bowmasters where we can stop our opponent from cantripping their way through the game. Grafdigger's Cage. Okay. That does nothing. Apart from it stops the Nethergoyf being reanimated, but that's not a thing we're ever going to do. Actually, does it? Players can't cast spells. Yeah, it does stop it. I would rather have... Would I rather have a Bowmaster or a Frog in play? I think I'm going to play the Bowmasters purely because we can play... They've got Daze mana up right now, so if we wait for our opponent to act, then we get our Bowmasters down with Daze back up. Or if they Wasteland us, we get to make a spell, and if they fight over the spell, we get to save our card from the Wasteland. I'm just going to lose that land. Our opponent hasn't shown us their own Bowmasters yet. They might have space for it, given what's in their deck. I would like to cast a Ponder here. None of these are lands, so we're going to go any order and shuffle. Well, it's a card we can cast. We are the one with the clock in play. We have more cards in hand as well, so if we can actually deploy these cards, we'll be in a good spot. If our opponent Wastelands us again, then we kind of got nothing. That hurts. That hurts a lot. That shuts off our Daze and our Snuff Out. Another Grafdigger's Cage. That's A-okay with me. You can have these complete blanks in your deck. Obviously, our opponent thought we were more towards the scam side. A land. We found a land. And it is fortuitous. So I think we'll get a Surveil land in our opponent's end step. Unless we need to get something earlier for the purposes of Daze or Snuff Out. Ponder. This is into our Bowmasters because they just need to do it. So we will get more power on board now. I think this game is probably going to come down to the fact that our opponent thought we were on scam and boarded in these cages. We haven't seen a Stifle yet from our opponent. I'm not going to respect them having one because we don't really have that luxury right now. Let's get the Sewers, get a tiny bit of selection. Fail Push is the sort of card we want, but I don't want it right now. We need to put this game away. I'd like to cast a Brainstorm. Oh, this game sometimes. Okay, well, we're obviously keeping the cards that we can cast. That seems like step one. This is the cantrips. That's kind of useful. Probably don't need double edicts right now. We get to draw one of these cards again. Would I rather draw a Bowmaster or an Edict? Probably an Edict. Although Bowmaster is a threat. And we already have 2 removal spells. Okay. I'd rather draw the Bowmasters again. Also, if we have to Daze, the land we have comes in untapped. Comes in tapped, not untapped. Which is a bit of an issue. Is this going to be a Thundering Force from our opponent? No. We're just fetching away from that Ponder. A counterbalance. Sure. We have a 3-turn clock. That's pretty much what our game is about right now. The top of our opponent's deck is a mystery. They had a Brainstorm on top. Okay, that's not a card they really want given this current board state. So I can live with that. If they cast that Brainstorm, they die if they don't deal with our Orc Army token. Right. They don't want the Brainstorm, so they're shuffling it away. Very reasonable. No Thundering Falls on our opponent's deck by the looks of it. Got a Snuff Out and a Daze. Can these get us there? They play like a big Murktide. That's what feels like is what's happening here. So we will fire off this Snuff Out in our turn, where we have the ability to pay around a Daze. Dragon's Rage Channeler. And now we're doing some more Baubling action. They left the card on top. That means it's probably like a 1-drop. I think that's what you would want to float on top for the most part. Unless it's a cantrip. I don't really want that. Creature, artifact, land. Don't have a 4-drop on top. Like, what 4-drops could they even play? Alright, our opponent's got 1 card on top that they wanted to leave on top. What is it? Is it a removal spell for our Bowmasters or Orc Army? Black, blue. It's the Psychic Frog. With no cards in hand, that's not as terrifying as it could be. Found a land. That's exciting. Right, we'll attack with our Orc Army here. We're going to block this. They're looking at the top card of our library. Oh, they're looking at the top card of their library. They have to block now because they're going to take an extra ping from the Bowmaster. They're blocking with just that guy. Okay. Let's see if they've got a 2-drop on top. Because the extra draw they get off their Bauble next time will kill them. Alright. It wasn't a 2-drop. That was a tough matchup. The Pyroblast seems really, really clutch there. That whole game basically came down to the fact that our opponent had two complete blanks in their deck. And that gave us enough wiggle room to sort of pull ahead, I think. But yeah, Pyroblast is a big trump card. When they have them, we don't. Okay, that's 4 rounds in the book. We are currently 3-1, so let's see if we can put the 4-1 on the board. All right. This opening hand does not do it for me because this is a swamp. So we're going to send this one back. Might be our first mulligan of the day. I will keep this. What am I supposed to bin off here? We can either try and make like a big Nethergoyf, or we could go into this. Maybe we'll get rid of the 2-drop actually. Because we want spells we can cast if we don't draw another land. This Mishra's Bauble represents more chances at finding mana. Don't stifle me, please. Alright, no stifle. I think I will lead off on this Nethergoyf. Apply some pressure. It's just a 1-2. Our opponent doesn't like the look of this, so they're cracking. Meticulous Archive. So Swords of Plowshares are probably going to be in our future. Feels like they're getting maximum information before they decide how they want to answer this Nethergoyf. I'll take a look at my opponent's hand here. A Nomads. Alright, so we're on breakfast over there. That was a really important card to see. Alright, another counterspell. Happy to see that. A basic plains. A Cephalid Illusionist. Say no to Cephalid Illusionist. We know they've got a Nomads in hand. Is it Tamiyo or is it the Brainstorm here? It's Tamiyo. Okay. First crisis overcome. We also know our opponent's not going to be a Wasteland deck. That gives us a 6-turn clock off this Nethergoyf. Misty Rainforest. A Nomads. Sure. Another Nomads. Okay. So we pretty much can't beat our opponent if they draw into the Illusionist here. Because we can't kill both of these. And they can just go instantly on top of the Cephalid. That would be a nice thing to be able to leverage, wouldn't it? This little Bowmasters. Let's brainstorm and see how bad it's going to be for us. I've only got 1 card in hand. How useful is this? It's not nothing, is it? I guess we'll go like this and we can shuffle away. If our opponent doesn't play any cards from their hand, we can just draw the him to Tourach and just fire at our opponent. Or we might be in the world where we have to Bowmaster and hope to draw a land for Fatal Push just to deal with these Nomads. Right, I played a land, so we're definitely shuffling away now. We got a Surveil land. A Tropical Island. We're going to see Nadu here. I don't think we beat that. Oh, lordy. That's a lot. So these aren't card draws, so Bowmasters doesn't actually do anything against it. Alright. We should win the game now. We can't beat this. The amount of value they're about to get this turn is absolutely grotesque. Yep, so drawing all the cards before we get to Fatal Push it. And the hope is they don't find another card they can play. They found another Nomads. So that's +2 cards. They've got a Force of Will in hand. They haven't got a blue card to pitch to it yet. Now they've got the blue card. I don't think we can win this game. But I'll play it out just so you can see how busted this is, because it's pretty fun. So we're going to see the Force of Will pitching the Brainstorm. They're going to play a Nomads and Core and draw 2 additional cards. And that might be the Nomads we saw earlier, actually. They might not have that. Yeah, so he's just got the Cabal Therapy in hand. Right, so they found a Thassa's Oracle. So they can play Thassa's Oracle if they want to. They can always use Cabal Therapy to sack and put in the graveyard later. I would play the Oracle and draw 2 cards here. Because why wouldn't you just draw 2 cards whenever you can? So what they also get to do here is do this all again on our turn and draw another 6 cards. This is basically such an unbeatable end of game engine that you have to be doing something big like hard casting Emrakul to be able to fight against this in any meaningful way once it gets set up. Alright. Our opponent can attack here if they want. I think we're better off casting this Edict. This reduces the amount of cards they can draw. They're just going to sack a Nomads, but they're going to draw 6 cards here. Yep. I think Nadu has a good shout of being one of the first cards to get banned from One Horizons 3. I think Psychic Frog's also with a shout as well. Alright, so our opponent's got a bunch of stuff there. They're going to lose a card from the board, but that's not really going to matter to them. We cannot pay. It's just a better Skull Clamp, basically. A Skull Clamp but costs 0 mana. Pretty scary. Yep, our opponent's got lots of tools here. Okay, so they can draw 10 cards this turn. That should be enough to win them the game. And at any point they can just find the Illusionist and just combo off. Our opponent's drawn a bunch of cards. They cast a Ponder. They're just looking for the Illusionist here so we can scoop it up. There it is. Okay. I'd like some Spell Bombs. I'd like some more removal. The Force of Negations aren't very good in this matchup. So this is the 5 cards we're looking to bring in. Hymn to Tourach looks pretty excellent here. We do need the Forces. The Nethergoyf is just a threat. We need to actually pressure our opponent, otherwise they'll just eventually win the game. The Orcish Bowmasters is okay. It pings down Nomads. What are we looking at here? Probably trimming some Baubles. Makes our Nethergoyf slightly worse if we don't have all of these, but we need to find some cuts somewhere. Cut a couple of those and ball in like this. I am not feeling great about this one. We could board in some Borrowers as well. But again, it's what do you cut? We've got some hard removal. I'm just going to rely on that instead. Hard removal and the counters. This is not going to do it for me. Because we are not as aggressive as like the Delver style decks, it means we give our opponent a little bit more time to try and assemble their stuff. We'll keep this. We'll get rid of a fetch land. Our opponent can have an aggro plan, so the life on the fetch land might be relevant. We've already got 2 here. Let's just make another Nethergoyf. 1 mana, 1/2. But we can cast a sorcery next turn and grow it, and hopefully take a bite out of our opponent's hand. Tropical Island. So they're not going to go for a turn 2 combo unless they have the Lotus Petal, which a lot of these lists have started running now because it just allows it to go off slightly quicker, as well as play Nardu earlier and just give like a different sort of turn 2 I win the game combo. Because if you go turn 1 Nomads, turn 2 Nardu, draw 4 cards, you're probably winning that game. Just do some good old fashioned Hymn to Tourach gaming right now. A Force of Will and a Cabal Therapy. Nethergoyf only counts your own graveyard, unfortunately. Flooded Strand and a pass. So now we're looking at surveilling off of our next land. Nihil Spellbomb is a good one. If they counter this, then at least it pumps our Goyf. If they don't, then we can stop their I win the game combo and they just have their I draw my entire deck combo. Which is, you know, problematic in its own way too. So we've got Surveil Land into Daze as our next couple of plays. Yep, our opponent is surveilling as well. Flooded Strand. It's being cracked. A Suffered Illusionist isn't a great thing for us to see on the other side of the table. But they're playing around Daze this whole time. Whilst the Spellbomb is in play, they can't go off though. Alright, Surveil Land, hook me up. A Wasteland. We can take our opponent off of white. Is that why I'm interested? I don't think that's the best use of our time. Okay, well I would have rather had that than a Polluted Delta. So next turn they can just start manually activating the Suffered Illusionist and blocking our creature indefinitely. It has another piece of text where you can pay 3, tap it, prevent all combat damage dealt by target creature you control this turn. 2 and by. That is a Nomads and Core. So our opponent gets to do their thing, and we have to hope that our Nihil Spellbomb does enough. Right, so they're going through their deck. They found their first Narcomoeba now. They played around this Daze pretty effortlessly this whole game. If we'd have Wastelanded this white source, we would have actually been in a better spot. I'm going to name Force of Will here, I imagine. Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. They're not going to try and fully go off into this Nihil Spellbomb. They were just going and getting a little bit deeper so they could fire off this Cabal Therapy. And we've drawn the Orcish Bowmasters. I think we play a land just so we can play around soft permission a little bit more. We'd rather fight once our opponent puts some things on the stack when we play our Bowmasters, because that means their mana's going to be tied up and make our life a little bit easier. I'm playing this Nardu into our Daze that they know about. That does suggest some amount of Force of Will is in our future. Let's ping down the Nomads. They'll redirect that, I think, to the Suffered Illusionist here. Nope, they're just going to let it go. Let's try and Daze this Nardu. I imagine this is going to get a return piece of counter magic. Unless they just have another Nardu. We will pay for this Daze. Our opponent have another one. Alright, we just get to win there. I'm not sure about how our opponent played that one. But we'll see. We obviously don't know what else was in their hand and stuff. We were fortunate to have that Bowmasters on top. Do you want to do anything differently right now? I don't think so. I think we're okay like this. I would like some more interaction. But we do have a Brainstorm that can find some use. Alright, we have a creature that can kill their Nomads or Illusionist. No play on turn 1. I think I just want to get a Nethergoyf down, start pressuring our opponent's life total. Our opponent is unlikely to just throw everything down and jam unless they have protection, which, you know, would beat us anyway, even if we had one piece of protection. So I'd rather get a threat down than spend our second turn sculpting for some answers. An ending. Sure, that's fine. No second land. Well, I think we all know what I'm about to do. And then we can play our Card Advantage Engine. I don't mind the Tamiyo in the slower games, but in some of these quicker games we've been playing, it hasn't felt amazing to me. Flooded Strand. I'm going to play out a fetch land first so we can play around a Daze potentially. We want to attack first before we brainstorm, because this will flip. It's mandatory, we can't choose if it flips or not. Right, let's reset our hand and get something going. Yeah, I like these cards. Wouldn't mind having this land, but I think just having the other pieces is more important here. So we can ponder right now, looking for a little bit more disruption. And looking for a land for next turn. Or we can hold at this push. Like, we already have the Snuff Out, so I don't feel like I have to do that, because our opponent would need another land and a Lotus Petal to go. I wanted one land. I don't know if I want all of these lands, but we have a Brainstorm, so I think that's okay. And we can just sit on this Tamiyo for a few turns, and hopefully that'll be enough to win us the game. Plains. Prismatic Ending on our Tamiyo. It is still CMC1. Or mana value is the correct term is. Sure, a Brainstorm. Right, so we know what we're drawing this turn anyway. We could just play this out and get rid of that swamp on top of our library and hold this Polluted Delta for next turn. I think that's fine. And we can either crack the clue or play the Bowmaster. A step 3. Alright, this is going to go and get them the Illusionist or the Nardu, I would imagine. Got the Illusionist. Okay. This Bowmaster is going to be removal, so we're just going to crack this clue. More removal. I think I can afford to play out a threat here. So we can hold up a Brainstorm end of turn if we need to, but what are we looking for here? We have so much removal. A Brainstorm. It's very tempting to play a Bowmasters out here. I think I have to take that. It's too tempting. If they spend a plow on the Bowmasters, it's not the end of the world either. Yep, so that's their whole turn. Now we have 4 power in play. And because we drew a 2-mana removal spell, getting that guy down makes some sense. We can't save all of the removal in our hand for one turn, so we may as well use this proactive piece right there, where our opponent either has to plow it or our clock gets dramatically increased. So, alright with that one. Also, you may have noticed the creature type on Cephalid Illusionist has been changed to Octopus Wizard as opposed to Cephalid Wizard. Not sure how that makes everyone feel, but... Okay, here we are with our Nihil Spellbomb. Just all the hits. This makes comboing very difficult for our opponent. And we should be able to clock our opponent in 4 turns here. Force of Will pitching Daze. Sure. That grows our Nethergoyf. So maybe we can do a 3-turn kill if we're lucky here. Right, it's going to be our opponent's turn now. A Shuko. Okay. We're going to try and turn this Brainstorm into another card. The Wasteland isn't the worst. I'll put these 2 away. And we'll crack this Polluted Delta. Our opponent is cracking their Windswept Heath in the end step. They're just fetching around us, dazing something, I suppose. So I want to take out this Tropical Island. So they can't play a Nardu, because you can't keep them off of white. And Nardu will get 2 cards if they play it, because they have a 0 mana activation that they have priority for to put on the stack. And then our target removal spell. I guess the Sheoldred Edict doesn't target it, so they only get 1 card. But if we take out the Tropical Island, they just can't play the Nardu in the first place. And that's probably a better position for us to be in. If we draw any soft permission, it does look a bit better if they have less lands. But we'll see what we draw, maybe it changes things. I would like to plough our Nethergoyf. That does dramatically reduce the clock. However, we have just drawn a very potent clock. So our opponent's got 1 card and it's probably the Illusionist. So we've got a Fatal Push around Daze and a Snuff Out around Daze. Let's push this. It's got 1 card in hand. If it's Daze, we can pay. Alright, they just had enough, and we finished the game. Oh, sorry, we finished the league with a 4-1. That was a pretty solid record. We got absolutely crushed by Death and Taxes. That did not even feel close. But the other games, you know, we absolutely smashed the first couple, And then we had a bit of back and forth with the Delver deck where they were kind of doing similar things to us but more aggressive, and we kind of got caught out in game 2 because I thought they were more just straight black blue, and then they showed us a bunch of red cards in game 2 and pyroblasted us and gave us a bad time. I think I probably board out some Tamiyo in future in that matchup because it looks really bad into the pyroblasts and stuff like that. And then that last one, there's no shame losing to Nadu drawing like 30 cards. But we did manage to win the match overall because we are, you know, disruptive with some good threats. So let's talk about this deck. Clearly it's very strong. We're running a bunch of good cards, right? But I think what everyone wants to really hear about is the new cards and how they slot into it. So Psychic Frog is arguably the most powerful card in Modern Horizons 3. I think Nadu is the other option for like the best card in terms of, is this maybe too good for Legacy? So this has a lot of similar play patterns to Dreadhorde Arcanist, where you like remove some stuff and start drawing cards, just getting extra value. Dreadhorde Arcanist obviously only worked with the things you had, but also gave you mana advantage when you're attacking. But this can be bigger, and it can enable things like reanimation by just discarding your big monster. So I think this card is definitely one people should watch. I don't think it's going to be banned by the time this video goes out, but maybe at the next one, possibly. This card does feel very, very strong. The other card today, Nethergoyf, this is fine. I don't think it's an incredible card. It's just fine. The escape clause on it may as well not exist for the most part. I think the amount of games that's going to come up is going to be relatively few, and when you do bring it back, it's not necessarily going to be very big because you're going to have to get rid of a bunch of the types that are pumping it. So yeah, it's fine. I'm not in love with this card, but I think it's all right. I'm keen to try and play it alongside something like Dragon's Rage Channeler. Obviously, Dragon's Rage Channeler is doing a similar thing to this, but better. Like, this can get bigger than a Channeler, but Channeler has the selection attached to it, and it has evasion. So this is kind of like a lower level threat, but it's still certainly Legacy playable. The other card we need to talk about is Tamiyo, Inquisitive Student. So in the slower matchups, this card looked pretty good, but in any of the sort of slightly quicker matchups, I wasn't particularly impressed. We never got to pop the ultimate off. I've had that happen against me a couple of times, but I think this card is fine. I think it's Legacy playable. I think it's pretty bad in decks like Delver, which is where I saw people jamming it to begin with, and people talking about it like, oh, you can just play this as your one-drop in Delvers, but it doesn't do anything for an aggressive game plan. It's for a slower game plan where you're trying to leverage lots of cards and sort of grind your opponent out by having that additional selection of resources that you get from both the Investigate and from the ultimate if you can pop it, but maybe you get to just -3 at once and then that's another card. So you can probably get 2 or 3 cards out of this in a lot of games where, you know, it's a bit of a longer one. But this is definitely not a card that you should be playing in every blue deck. I think it has a place in sort of slightly slower decks that are trying to recoup a bunch of card advantage. But I do think that it has some synergy with Psychic Frog, because the more cards you have, the more things you can put in the Frog. But I think that's just the Frog being good. So as for the rest of this deck, I love playing him to Tourach. It's just such a sledgehammer in certain games. And people are trying to do some pretty gross things in Legacy at the moment due to Modern Horizons 3. So being able to really ruffle up their hand feels like a nice place to be. I do like just playing sort of these blue cantrippy decks with like relatively low to the ground threats. I did kind of miss having a Murktide Regent type threat in this deck. We didn't just have like, oh, let's just play a massive thing that wins the game. We had some Psychic Frogs, but I'm not sure that's quite enough a lot of the time. Sometimes if you're drawing this late, then it's not actually going to be very large. It's, you know, it's still obviously a great card, but I did feel like we could do with like maybe trimming a Tamiyo or 2 for some Murktide Regents, just to have them in our deck to find would be quite nice. Or possibly trimming the 4th Hymn, but I wouldn't mind having 2 Murktides in this deck. It's just a nice thing that we can do. Like, you could even trim like 1 Tamiyo, 1 Nethergoyf if you wanted to go that route. Like, the Nethergoyf is fine, but it's not the be all and end all. It's basically like a 2-3, sometimes a 3-4. Like, we did get it bigger than that once or twice, but that's generally not what you're planning for it to be in a lot of your games. But there's only so much stuff you can do in terms of putting pressure on your graveyard for, you know, having as many card types as you want, but then also wanting to give your creature evasion, and then also playing your Murktide, or possibly escaping this, which I think isn't really going to happen anyway. But I would say this deck feels very, very solid. It's easy to see why it took down a challenge. It's playing a bunch of good cards, and it's certainly changed my evaluation of some cards. I think my evaluation of Tamiyo is a little bit different. I thought it was... I was not impressed by that card at all to begin with, but now I think there's definitely a place for it, but I don't think it's the be-all and end-all of shoving it into lots of blue decks. I think you do want to be playing a slower game to make use of it, and I don't want to see this alongside Delvers of Secrets and Dragon's Race Channelers. That doesn't feel right to me. Okay, I think we are done with this one. I hope you enjoyed this one. Playing Unluckmonkey's Legacy Challenge winning deck. If you've got anything you'd like to see me play on the channel, by all means get in touch. I do donation decks, and I have my car insurance to pay, so this is a great time to get in touch with me and pay for a donation deck. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.